Hello everybody, my name is the English Born Idiot, and today we're going to be doing a different thing entirely. We're doing... I'm going to be comparing real-life tanks to, their War Thunder counterparts. And today we're going to be starting with one of the most popular tanks and one of the most notable tanks from the war, for people that know tanks. And that is the M4 Sherman, specifically the M4A1, because I looked up, according to the Museum of America GI, the World War II M4A1 Sherman is probably arguably one of the most iconic tanks of the war. Well, obviously the M4 Sherman, but it specifies this and there. So I will be going over the M4A1. Now, there is a lot of different Sherman types. I'm looking over the Wikipedia page. I know, like Wikipedia. But there's a lot of stuff. In fact, it's considered probably, in terms of the production, it's the fourth one produced after the first one, after the first regular M4. Then, well, actually, no, I'm wrong. It's this. Well, actually, well, that's production date. Oh god. Well, this is date. So, oh fuck, I was looking over. The M4A1, the M4 was July. That was February, but that went to December. So, I think this was the first one. By just that, I guess. I mean, yeah. God, help me. Let's look at this baby. The Army had several M4, so yeah, the M4A1 was the first. But apparently the M4 105 was second, I guess, or at least, yeah, around that time as well. But yeah, I want to go over each of them, describe how, like, differences they are in the game, and in just terms of this, certain stuff. Like, how fast it would go, how slow it would be, and just armament in terms of that. So, we'll go on the M4A1 and we'll start with the War Thunder stuff. So to general info, it has 51 in the front, according to this, obviously. Obviously, it's going to be different in game because there's different, how, this thing works is that, it essentially changes depending on where you look at it and where you angle it, and also how the plates themselves are angled. So this may say 51, but due to the curving of it, it may be more akin to, let's say, 60. I don't know that for fact. I'm not saying that for fact, I'm just saying it as an example. So it says 51 in there, and you think, oh, a T50 gun could easily go through the hull of that. But in reality, you're probably going to need to use a T-34 gun, maybe, to get through the hull of that, which is probably more akin to how that would actually react in-game, at least. As a crew of 5 people, and the turret has a hull armor on the front of 58 and 38 on the sides and back, and the turret is 76, with 51 on the sides and the back. Now, the sides and the back are normally, like, at least for the hull of the tank, are going to be, like, mainly consistent, because it's mainly just kind of a straight line. There's no real curves on it. So if you hit the side of it, it says 38. You don't really need like a big gun to take it. So yeah, but I think here is like tells you actually how angled it is. So the front glacis is 19.5 millimeters. That's 50.8. 34 plus 25.4 because there's multiple on it. So it's effectively like nearly over 60, I think. That's 38, 50, and like all there, you can see that. On the sides, it is like pretty much the same. Same with the rear and the roof. It's 50.8 on the front, 19.5, 19.5 on the turret, engine, and engine bay area. On the turret, it's 50.8 minus 76.2, I think, depending on the turret, and that's 58.6 on the gun mantlet. Yeah, and then the cupola is 50.8 all around, I think. So that means it's continuously that on the cupola, cupola. So yeah, and outer ring, center. Suspension, our wheels are 50 millimeters thick. For the bogies, I have no idea what this is. Okay. Yeah, all the boogies are 10 millimeters thick on the tracker, 20 millimeters thick. Belly armor is 12.7. That's probably like, okay, I think I know what I'm talking about with this, because this is a learning experience. I want this to be a learning experience for both me and you, for people who don't know a lot about tanks. So yeah, I feel like that'll be good. 50.8 and the rest is 76.2. Bolt edges on the transmission are housing of 101.6 mil thick. taking out, and it says it's not incredibly difficult. Any gun with 100 plus penetration could do it. Panzer III users, however, may have some penalty. It may use this 50 mil then. With the L11 cannon, can also have a difficult time. Mobility. It has basically. I'm going to use realistic. I'm not going to use arcade because arcade's bullshit. It has 38 kilometers forward and 5 kilometers reverse top speed. Now you might not be able to go that fast that forward due to some circumstances of the map, but yeah, and it has a max horsepower of 400 horsepower. It has 5 gears forward and 1 reverse gear. It has a weight of 30.6, and the power to weight ratio is 13.1 horsepower per ton. So yeah, and I'm going to go across the repair cost because there's no real point about that. It has a 75mm M3 cannon with a vertical stabilizer. It has 90 rounds full. It has a vertical guidance of like minus 12 degrees of depression, which means it can go down 12 degrees and it can go up 18 degrees. It has a basic reload of 6.5 seconds. And the capacity, yeah, that is, it says here, yeah, boom. And this is the type of ammunition it has. It has AP, HE, APBC, and shell. Which, yeah. And these are like the penetration abilities of each round. The armor-piercing cap, ballistic cap does the most, and the AP round is 91. The HE round does 10 all round. And this is how it does in like distance. And I don't think it tells us how it does at angles. No, it just tells it how it does at different things. So another thing, people who might be new to this and might be like, what the fuck are you on about? They might be on from not Wartime, they might be on from Zombie Saturdays or Minecraft Mondays, is that your round will, the round of a tank, even if it's like 10 meters out, will have an effect. Will like basically lower depending on the angle performance of the round. So let's say there's a plate that's like 50 meters angled to like 30 degrees, making it essentially like 80 millimeters. That round, and let's say that round is like at 60 degrees, it can only do 70. It'll just straight bounce off, if you get what I mean. So yeah, it does have smoke shell as well, and this is the Anorax. You don't really need to know this, considering the fact that it's not going to affect you. This won't affect the real life thing, because I don't think people took fucking ammo out of their tank, because let's be honest, they didn't care about like, yes, this thing will be better if we take less ammo. They took as much as they probably needed, which could be, I don't know how that varied, but they're not going to be taking out, they probably like, were stocked up as much as they can so they can like, you know, actually kill a lot of shit. Because, you know, most of the stuff probably didn't go down in like 1 or 2 shots. And yeah, machine guns, it has a 12.7 H2 HB machine gun, 600 rounds. Belt has 200 and has a 10.4 second reload. I'm not going to count the ace crew because that's just a thing in the game. It has a fire rate of 575 shots per minute. It can depress 60 degrees down and move 22 degrees up, and it can turn left or right 60 degrees. And in its coaxial machine gun, which is the one on the hull, I believe, which is a 7.62 machine gun, M19A4 machine gun, it has 3,000 rounds, 250, and has the same reload as well, and it just does like slightly less per minute. So yeah, that's just that in more stuff. Now this is, I think it's telling us like how it does in the game. Yeah, it just tells you like the different like enemies of it. So yeah, the Churchill, the Churchills, the Panzers, the Studs, and the R3, and like the different pros and cons. Obviously, it tells you the history of it here. Like I think the actual history of it in development. However, I will go over that over Wikipedia. So we'll see that in use. It has a good 75mm with an adequate damage. Yada 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 yada. You can see all this, and you can pause to read if you want. I don't really want to like look into it, but yeah, armor is not as good as upgun vehicles against upgun vehicles like the Panzer IV F2 and the 1934 and 1942. That is a 4.0, which is going up against a 3.3. So that is a that is not really a fair comparison. If it was the 1941, fair enough. This is a fair enough comparison because that's actually a 3.3. This is the 4.0, I think. I'll check. Yes, 4.0, man. Like, why are you comparing a... I mean, I guess, like, yeah, no. If it's talking about armor, then yeah, why are you comparing a 3.3 to a 4.0? It's not really a fair thing, considering the fact that, you know, if you get up tiered, you experience, you're not going to have a great time against other guns. But that gun, I'm pretty sure, is in, I don't think that, is the 1942 the strongest gun, or does 1940 have it? I'm going to actually check in terms of, like, penetration. So I will stop the recording now so I can just check that fact check, and we'll get back in a second. Alright, we're back, and yes, the 1941 can easily has the same gun, well, it has the same at least penetration as the APHE round, which is the better round because it has better angle performance. So yeah, that is a fair compare. I would have put the 1941 in instead of the 1942, because I feel like comparing a 4.0 to a 3.3 isn't fair, but comparing a 3.7 to a 3.3 is a lot more fair comparison, I feel. So yeah, it says it's vulnerable to rank 1 anti-tank and anti-aircraft guns, but I mean, that's probably a very considered, that's probably like most stuff. A lot of stuff has very weak things, so that's fair. Has narrow tracks and has poor grounded flotation, thus it has bad off-road capabilities, prone to damage to artillery barrages. Ammunition storage is vulnerable to cooking off, may tip over when traveling over slight inclines. A shot through hull vision blocks turret ammo supply and hull. Sponce ammo and lucky shot might even take the Sherman out. Has a high profile and cast hull creates frontal weak spots, which is true. Which is I think is like these little areas here. This like curve bit here is where the weak spots are. So I guess I just gave people a thing for that. Hopefully, you know, we don't get on 21. So yeah, let's look at the real life. We looked a bit at the thing, so I'm going to look at the armament of it. The gun development, I guess, yeah. So it has, I'm going to look at, I think the main thing they use is the 75mm, a 3-inch. They did use the 105 howitzer, but that was used for the 105. So, the lethalness and sharpness, the lethal shrapnel rounds in a 20-foot radius from HE round, the 75, 950. So they have 950 shrapnel from a 75, less for the 76. Max penetration on upsloped rolled homogeneous armor at 100 meters was 88mm. Doesn't give the things for the other one. I don't know why, but for the 75 it does 88. Which is slightly weaker in game because it's, well, it says rolled homogeneous armor up a hill, I think. Max penetration on unsloped, which means it hasn't been moved on rolled and homogeneous. So it does, yeah. It does slightly weaker. It does like a 3, it does like about, no, actually, it does the same. Yeah, it does the same at 100 meters with the good rounds. Well, actually, no, that's the main round. So that's probably they probably use the M72 rounds. They didn't probably use the M61 rounds until maybe later on. So that's actually a good comparison. So that's actually very accurate, I feel like. I think. And, at least in that scenario. So let's go on. I will go on to like different fun facts about the history of the tank at the end of the video because I feel like that would be nice to do, and instead of just looking at like the whole like, oh yeah, let's just compare facts and see which is better, because probably the game one's better because it's meant for a video game. It's not meant for real life combat. It's been done in a way, so it's better. But I just want to compare it still because I feel like it could be fun. So armor, it said from M4 range from 24mm to 276.2. But that depends on the gun, 75. So I'm guessing this is the 75 and this is the 105. Or they're just like depending on the different types of tanks. I'm not 100% sure about that. Now that is actually kind of, that is actually very correct considering the turret is 76 on the front. So that is also correct. I mean, it's 0.2 off, but War Thunder hardly ever gives 0.2 in terms of armor. They might do it for like a couple British tanks, I think, but in terms of like American tanks, they always just give you the straight up number, at least, or like the majority of tanks, they just give you the straight up number. So yeah, that's cool. Angled to 30 degrees. The turret is. I'm going to have to look at that in game actually. I will actually look at that in game. And I will confirm at the end of the video if that is true or not. I think I will give them the benefit of the doubt though and say that it is. It says 18 to 71 turret front, so oh yeah, no, that's okay, no. Forgive a mistake I made earlier in the video where I said that was minus, that is 2. That is meant to be like 58 to 76.2 depending on the angle of the turret. So it 30 millimeters degrees from the vertical giving effective thickness of 87.9 is I'm gonna have to look at that in game, but so far it doesn't really seem to give that high of a thing. It just says up to 71 degrees, and it just gives that as the max, it seems, at the turret front. But I will, of course, check that in game to make sure that's correct, because if it is, I feel like that's actually good. So I'll actually have that noted down, I guess. Do you know what? I'm gonna create a notes thing. This is gonna be nice for, Notepad. So I'm just gonna, like, it'll be nice to do. Yeah, I know, it's not, like, dark mode, but whatever. Check to see if M4A1 has ever 80 plus millimeter on turret. Gives me a thing to check at the end of the video, you know, just to make sure that's right. And yep, okay. Oh fuck yeah, 87.9. The main gun was covered by 50.8. That is also true. Like, those are two good measurements. Like, the base measurements, I guess, are kind of there. In fact, that is actually the one time. Actually, no, yeah, no. I was wrong. I say they never said, but right here it says 76.2, 80.8, 50.8, which means that the two base things are. So I'm going to assume that that thing can go to 80 point thing, depending on 89.7, depending on where you look at it. So yeah, later models of the M4A3 were equipped with the T80 development for the T23 tank. I think that's just using like the different gun and the new 76 gun. So that's not the 75 gun that we're looking at. So yeah, the Sherman Glacius plate was, yeah. Glacius is military engineering of an artificial slope. Okay, yeah. It was originally 50.8 millimeters thick, angled at 56 degrees from the vertical, providing an effective thickness of 90.8. So, hull 51. It's rounded up. It's rounded up from 50.8, so technically speaking, they are right. Hull 50.8, 48 to 6 degrees. Is that in the range of that? Yeah, I guess. So it is in that range, depending on the different curves. So, and obviously that's the different Shermans as well. It doesn't specify for the M4A1, so if it fits into that range, I will count that as like, in there. So it has an effective thickness of 90.8. So can it get to 90.8? Doesn't really seem to. I'm gonna have to check if I can get to 90.8 anywhere on the front plate. But it can go to, on the front Glacius, it can go up to these things, but it's very weak, so maybe not. Maybe not. It doesn't have the same effective thickness, but that again depends on the Sherman, I guess, because this is more of a, doesn't go on, unfortunately this doesn't go on to the very specific Shermans. It only goes that way. A minute, hold on. Further is retained as previous glacier shapes after in perspective of larger hatches that are 38, which the majority of the vehicles had closer to 50 degrees. So I mean, since it's at a weaker angle, actually, so at 35, it'll actually have a weaker thing. So is that true? Is it true here? Oh crap. It doesn't mention the 30 to 58. does it? No. 37 to 58. Down from the vertical. In respect, okay, the cast hull for the M4A1 for the most part retained its previous glacier shape, even after the largest hulls were introduced. The casting, irrespective of the larger hatches, sat at 37 to 55 degrees from the vertical, with the large majority of the piece sitting closer to 55-degree angle. Okay, so it's slightly changed, but like, yeah, I mean, it seems pretty good. This is kind of, again, like I said, this is a general thing, you know. So it's not really fair to like look at it, I guess. In terms of that, it says the upper hull rear was 38, which is true, I think. Yeah, that's 38.1. They get it very solidly right for a lot of things. Hull roof was 25.4. No, it doesn't say the roof was 25.4. Actually, no, never mind. The roof was 25.4. I'm corrected again on the, yeah. So yeah, 25.4. They love to correct me. Thick under the driver and assist side position to 12.7. Doesn't say 12.7, but that specific part isn't mentioned. So under the assistant driver position to 12.7. So maybe that'll have it in game. Probably will, considering the fact that they know what they're doing most of the time, at least in terms of armor. So far, at least for the Sherman, they know what they're doing. Like they know what like to do. They know what to like put it in. They've done the research more than I have, obviously, and they have looked at this tank and are like, yeah, okay, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to put in. Oh wait, no, fuck me. 12.7 is right there. Again, I'm dumb. I mean, that's for the belly armor, which is the under area, but it says, if I'm mistaken, under the driver and assistant position is 12.7, which is, I think, the belly area. Yeah. So yeah, that's good. It's very, 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 very good. They've done the research on this tank, so yeah. Effectiveness. So it was most used against Axis tank, Panzer IVs with the 75, along with anti-tank firing weapons on multiple occasions. It was said it was needed to compound angle towards this later German tanks. So that's probably like the later iterations of it. So the M4A1 went against like other earlier Panzer IVs, but later ones like the M4A2, M4A3, M4A4 went up against the later ones with better guns and all that. Which is true. The Waffenamt Professor reported estimate that an M4 angled at 30 degrees sideways and APBC round, the Tiger 1's 88 gun would be capable of penetrating the differential case of an angled from 2100 and from the turret from 1800. But the Tiger's 88 gun would not penetrate the upper glacis at any range, and that the Panther with its long barrel 75 would have to close in at 100 meters to achieve penetration at the same situation. However, others documented that suggest that the glacis could be protected at a range of about 800 meters by the Tiger 1. The Tiger 1 was estimated to be able to penetrate most others armor planes at a range of 2 kilometers or above, far exceeding the range at which the tank itself was vulnerable from fire from the Sherman. So it didn't seem, apart from like the upper glacis, it didn't seem that very like as a threat to the Tiger, but the Tiger was considered as a very good tank. So yeah, I might get into the Tiger sooner or later. Although later German medium and heavy tanks were greatly feared, the Buckley original vast imagery recorded in Normandy were inferior or more merely equal to the Sherman, the Panzer IIIs and IVs. So again, the majority of vehicles were considered outmatched or just as good, about as good, maybe as good as the Sherman. So that cedes to its thing. However, in game, it says that it lacks in comparison to T-34s and Panzer IVs. So, which it shouldn't, as they should be on an equal footing. I guess that's in comparison to them as a whole. So maybe the M4A1 would probably, be bad against the Panzer IVs and the later ones do show, I think, remember in game that. But this is not a thing on Shermans as a whole. This is just the M4A1. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, okay. This is just going on the M4 Sherman. I will look at the M4A1. There's not a thing on it. There's not a thing on the M4A1. There's only a thing on the Sherman, which sucks. It sucks, but you know what? It'll do. It'll do for now, considering it's late for me. It's like 11 o'clock and I have to go tomorrow. But it's unfortunate, but yeah. So, I think we've got to that. So let's get into a few little things. I'm going to randomly pick a thing and service history. During World War II, approximately 19,000 Shermans were issued to the U.S. Army and about 1,400 to the Marine Corps. The U.S. were also supplied about 17,000 to the U.K., some of which went to the Canadians and the Free Poles, while the Soviet Union received 4,100, probably due to the Lend-Lease, and 800 were transferred to China, again, probably due to the Lend-Lease program. These numbers were distributed further to rest British countries, allied nations, which is why you actually see that stuff in game. Yeah, you see different tanks such as them, but some of them could be due to like stealing them. Obviously, the Germans have a, KB2 and a T-34, it's not because of the fact that they got them they didn't ask nicely, So yeah, excuse me. The Marine Corps used the diesel A2 and the gas-powered A3 in the Pacific. However, the Chief of the Armored Forces, Lieutenant General Jacob L. Devers, ordered that the diesel engine Shermans be used by the Army outside the zone of interior, the continental U.S. The Army used all types of training or tested in the U.S., but intended the M4A2 and the M4A4 with the current engine that they have to be the primary Lend-Lease exports, which is the Lend-Lease program, I think, is basically they lend tanks to other nations to help them, basically. First combat, why not? The Shermans were exported into a feminization armed division return to the Western Desert Campaign. Axis forces had taken Turbach, which is in Libya. Not the more you know. We're advancing in Egypt, and British supply line through the Suez Canal was threatened. The U.S. considered collecting all Shermans altogether and sending them to be able to send Second Armored Division under Patton to reinforce Europe, but delivering the Shermans directly to Britain was quicker, and over 300, mostly M4A1s, but also including M4A2s, had arrived in September 1942. So, yeah. The M4A1 and the A2 were used in the African campaign. So, yeah. The Shermans were also modified for desert warfare. The Shermans first saw combat in the Second Battle of Al Alamein. I'm probably pronouncing that very poorly. In 1942, with the British Aid Army at the start of the offensive, there were 252 tanks fit for action. So yeah, about 300 had arrived by then, and since they first, about 50 of them weren't fit for, about like 48 weren't fit for action. I don't know, maybe I don't know. That's still a very good number though. The fucking vast majority were good, and they were probably like some of the first tanks were out there. So I think getting 252 tanks out of 300 is very good. I think these equipped the British 9th Armored Division for the battle under the New Zealand Division, 2nd Armored Brigade, and the 8th and 20 Armored Brigades. Their first encounter was with tanks, the German Panzer IIIs and IVs, along with 50 and 75mm guns, engaging them at 2,000 yards or 1,800 meters. There were losses at both sides. In Operation Torch, the first U.S. Shermans in battle were M4s and A1s. In Operation Torch, which was an Allied invasion of the French North Africa during the Second World War, Torch was a compromise operation that met the British objective of securing victory in North Africa while allowing American armed forces to the opportunity to engage the fight against Nazi Germany on a limited scale. on the following month, and it talks about 13 armored was lost to anti-tank guns, just a loss of that. So yeah, I think they did well, you know. And let's go under the Lend-Lease. So under the Lend-Lease, 4,102, 4,102, and 4,102. I thought that was a fucking different gun. I'm sorry, I'm dumb. M4A2s was sent out to the Union. 2,000 were equipped with their original 75, and 2,095 were equipped with the more capable 76. Total number of tanks. Oh Jesus, 18.6% of all Lend-Lease Shermans were under the USSR, which is wow. The first 76 armed M4A2 started to arrive in the late summer of 1994. So a lot of them were just like the main 76s, but they used the M4A2, which was a superior to the M4A1. But yeah, that's still interesting. I feel like this is very interesting. The Red Army considered the M4A2 to be less prone to catching fire than to detonation than the T-34 76 gun, but the M4A2 had a higher tendency to overturn in road accidents and collision because of much tougher terrain than the T-34 due to its higher center of gravity. That's probably, I think, where most people find, I think, the T-34 to be better. And just due to its ability for off-roadness, and the M4 and the Shermans kind of lack in that department. However, I feel like being less prone to catch fire due to ammunition detonation is a bigger win in my book. I don't know. And probably a very important thing for America, the Pacific Theater, it was also in there as well. I think this is where the M4A1 was, so I think I might focus more on that. During the early stages of the campaign, specifically the Guadalcanal campaign, I actually surprisingly said that right. They used light tanks. They used the Stuart light tanks against the Hagos light tanks with lightly armored 37. However, an M2 was produced by that. The Chiha mediums with Allied forces were still replacing their light tanks. Were quickly replacing their light tanks with the M4s. Chinese in India received 100 M4s, and they used them to greatest effect. And subsequent to 1944 and 1945, the offensive in the Chinese-Burma-India theater. To counter the Sherman, the Japanese developed the Type 3 Chinu and the heavier Type 4 Chito, which are two Type 4s built non-SOC combat. They were originally defensive to Japanese home islands, leaving 1930s area medium light tanks to do battle against the 1940s built Allied and medium tanks. And yeah, that's just going through, yeah. During the later years of the war, general high explosive ammunition was preferred for fighting Japanese tanks because armor-piercing rounds, which have been best designed for penetrating thicker steel, often went through the thin armor. They literally, to put this in War Thunder terms, they basically decided, goddamn, we gotta use bigger HE because our rounds are just straight up over-penning. That's actually fucking funny. It's like, Christ above, our rounds are doing too well. We need to cut it back and just hold up on the bigger boom. They really went for the boom later in the war, let's just say that. During the later years of the war, the general proposed high explosive, and which has been designated for producing higher thin armor, most commonly encountered Japanese tank out the other side while stopping. Although the high velocity of the tank destroyers were useful for penetrating fortifications, M4s were often deployed with flamethrowers and were often deployed as such as fire. I would actually like to see a flamethrower M4 Sherman in game. I know that was mainly used for like stuff, but we have the Churchill Crocodile, we have that new Soviet thing that's in game now, so I think a Sherman with a flamethrower is in the deal. I'm not going to talk about the Korean War or other uses because I feel like it goes way past the we're literally in this territory, I think, nearly. Yeah, we're in this territory here when it comes to that. Which really goes past what this is meant to be. So yeah, the M4, yeah, and you know what, closing comments before I end this video, I think the Sherman's a very good tank, and it made me look at this, really made me have a better view on it, and also made me have a better view on how like War Thunder conducts its research, and how accurately it does do its research a lot, and that it is actually very good, I think, yeah, it does well. And you can't really disagree. Well, at least for the Sherman, at least for this tank, at least. Because how many tanks are there in the game? There's hardly a ton of them. I probably haven't gone through enough, but for the Sherman, at least the M4A1 Sherman, they are very accurate with it. So yeah, oh yeah, I forgot. I will have to check something. I mean, I could just actually do this. Showing game. Oh yeah, because I don't have the game loaded. I'm not loaded in. I'm not logged in. War Thunder. Open. Fucking hell. So yeah, I'm gonna turn off the recording. So yeah, that's all I got to say for this video. If you have enjoyed, please consider leaving a like, please consider subscribing, and turn on notifications if you're new, so you'll know whenever I upload. So that's all I got to say today. Bye.
Okay, so hi, this is past Jamie recording this, and I meant to do a section where I went onto the War Thunder website, not the War Thunder website, and confirmed that those are the cases. Yes, it is. It is. You probably already know this. I don't need to tell you this. But yeah, it didn't show up in the video, so it was just a long silence for like 5 minutes. It was like, ah, shit. So I'll know next time to fix it, I guess. I should have known this would happen. It happened before. I don't know why I thought this time would be different. So yeah, I apologize for that. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Like I said like a few minutes earlier, please consider like, subscribe, and also please, in the comments, tell me where I went wrong. Tell me where I can improve. I mean, I know someone said use pictures, but I said I might use them for like videos I have more time in. Again, I had time constraints in this video, so I couldn't necessarily get to like doing that. I have like, it's nearly midnight right now for Monday, and I'm leaving Tuesday, so I'm going to have to go to bed soon. And I'm not going to be able to record for the rest of the week because I'm just doing college stuff again, so it's like, it's going to be difficult. But yeah, that's, again, peace out guys. Have a good one.